I'm visiting Lisbon, Portugal, and of course I'm also taking some pictures while I'm visiting, and I thought this would be a perfect moment or occasion to share a few travel photo tips, 5 tips to be exact. And without any more small talk, let's go right into it. Tip number 1. As a tourist, you probably want to photograph some major tourist attractions like, for example, the church behind me. Try to look for an alternative angle or something, and that's going to make your picture more interesting because everyone is going to take that standard picture, but if you go through some extra trouble, look for an alternative angle or something, you're going to end up with a little bit more interesting picture that is your picture and not the standard picture. I generally don't photograph those attractions because I don't find those pictures very interesting. However, sometimes even I like to take a picture of a major attraction like a church or whatever, but I usually like to include some people maybe in the foreground or somewhere in the picture because it's interesting to me how tourists behave in certain situations, and usually I find that also those people make my pictures more interesting. Tip number 2, take your picture when the light is good. Of course, I recommend you to take any picture whenever you see an interesting scene or whatever. Take the picture because you may never see that same exact situation ever again. But as a tourist, you're likely to pass the same scenes or places many times over. So it's a good idea to keep your camera with you and ready and take the picture of that scene when the lighting is optimal. And even a tourist attraction looks better in good light. So if you have a chance to choose your timing, go and take your picture when the light is good. And there are certain times of day when the lighting is good, that is early in the morning and late in the afternoon, or so-called blue hour, which is just after the sunset when you still have the shades of blue in the sky and it's not too dark. So do that. Tip number 3, document your routines. Take pictures of your accommodation, your food, and all the little personal details. Those are so easy to forget, but later they can be real fun memories. And it's those little personal details that make it your travel story instead of just some random collection of travel photos. That's what I try to do when I travel. I try to build up a story instead of just a collection of pictures. Tip number 4, look for details. And I don't mean literally very tiny details. I mean a little bit like smaller scenes at your destination or your location. Observe what is happening around you. Look for interesting or funny incidents, and also remember to include people. And there's one easy and almost guaranteed method to get some portraits if you like portraits. If you visit the same cafe or bar multiple times, and then on your 3rd or 4th visit, they will remember you, of course. Then on your 3rd or 4th visit, you ask if you can take someone's portrait. They'll usually agree. But of course, you should also photograph some real details like, doors, door handles, trash cans, vehicles, and whatever small details that interest you. Those small details are not necessarily tied to that location as well as some bigger attractions, but they will personalize your story and make it your travel story. Tip number 5 comes from my office because unfortunately my GoPro developed some sort of an audio impediment in Lisbon and it sounds like this. no sound at all through the microphone jack. And I'm 99.5% sure the culprit was the GoPro and not my Rode wireless microphone that I'm actually using right now to record this. But anyway, the tip number 5 is keep your gear simple and ready. And it may sound like a very obvious tip, but even I sometimes miss a photo and I'm using this super simple gear setup. It can't get much simpler than this, but it's because either my camera is not ready or I'm not ready. And the more gear you have with you, the more you are likely to fiddle with your gear. You are either thinking about changing lenses or you are actually changing lenses or doing something else with your gear, and while you're doing that, there is something happening and you are more likely to miss a photo opportunity. So keep your gear simple and be ready to use it all the time, and you are more likely to capture something interesting. And here's one more bonus tip for you guys. Tip number 6. Print your pictures. Make a book, make a photo album, make a magazine. Don't leave your pictures on your hard drive because it's so much more difficult to show them to everyone or show your travel story to anyone if they are just on your hard drive, and a printed publication or prints are so much easier or nicer to look at compared to a computer screen. And in a print you can make a proper layout. You can print some pictures bigger, some pictures smaller, and that's going to make your travel story even more interesting to the viewer because there are going to be opening shot, cover shot, establishing shot, transitional shot, and so on. So it's going to be much more interesting than just some pictures on a computer screen. And if your travel story is in a magazine or a book, you can always give it to a friend as a gift, and I'm sure they're going to appreciate it much more than a slideshow on a computer screen. But anyway, these are my travel photo tips. I hope you enjoyed this, and if you enjoyed this a lot, please consider buying me a cup of coffee. There's a link down below for that if you do not live in Finland. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.